You approach the chamber of the king. It is empty. A single flame hangs from a torch bracket. Scum and dirt litter tiles in the halls. You hear nothing. Where's the king gone? Scotty Hardwick, Bogan Plays Cards, and today I am making a scratch build for a throne room. The really cool thing about this build is I used most of the resources from that starter kit that I previewed a couple of videos back. Links in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell down below. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
That Bogan Plays Cards!
Alright, first of all we have that hot wire cutter that I doubted. First of all, I do not doubt it anymore. It's a really, really cool piece of tool. Just so that I can get that out there first. Forget that I ever said anything negative about it. Really, really cool. You might be wondering why I'm doing a scratch build if you have been keeping up with my videos, because we are in the middle of a series, but I'll be honest, I needed to change things up a little bit. I felt like making something completely out of nothing, and I had all of these bits and pieces from the Army Painter starter kit staring me in the face, so hey, I had to do something about that, or otherwise I would have gone mad. You got to enjoy what you are doing when it comes to crafting, and therefore I needed a break from making the Elven Honeysuckle Kingdom. New video hopefully out on Saturday next week instead, so all the links to the other videos in the comments or descriptions below. So, scoring the XPS foam and making sure that you have the D&D type 1-inch squares for your 5 feet of movement. Copy the same thing onto the other side, because we're going to be doing a floor and wall build here. And grab the rolling pin texture thing that I made and texture the XPS foam. Of course, if you don't have any of that kind of stuff like the rolling pin, you of course can just screw up some tinfoil and roll it across, and it has a very similar effect. PVA glue, stick it together and help support it with a couple of skewers so that it doesn't go anywhere and it is allowed to dry. Next up, using a little bit of extra XPS, I cut a semicircle and then a smaller semicircle so that we could have steps up to where I am planning on putting a chair, or throne if you wish, which I'm also going to make from scratch, which is very exciting. There's the small hot wire cutter's Big Daddy, and voila, halve them. Perfect, and that way we can put the same pattern on the floor and the wall, and it's going to look really, really cool like that. Texture it up and trim those skewers once the PVA has dried. So easy thing is just glue them all in there, make sure that you've got it somewhat accurately in the middle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, if we want something to look like it's been made by humans, then it can't be 100% perfect. Anyway, moving on. So I have a couple of small pieces of dowel and a couple of popsicle sticks that I acquired from my local craft store. That one's Spotlight, if you're ever familiar with the store Spotlight. I have a feeling it might just be in New Zealand, potentially New Zealand and Australian, but anyway, so chucked it on my little mini vise and cut it down, sanded it down with a little bit of fine sandpaper, and basically it was all about just cutting down, sanding it down, and then putting it together with a bit of PVA. If I haven't said it yet, we're making the chair, or the throne, right now. I did get a little bit eager, as I always do, and mess up my orders of operation. Some older viewers might be familiar with how sometimes I get a little bit carried away. I did originally put the chair into the XPS on the floor before I started painting it. You'll see there's a little point in which I start trying to paint it around the chair. Unfortunately, this became a little bit too complicated, so I ended up taking the chair out a little bit. It didn't damage anything, it was just, it was already PVA'd in, so it was a little bit of a risk that could have been avoided if I just left the chair out and put it in after I've painted the rest of the stuff. You see the arms of the chair are actually the ends of the skewers that we used to stick the XPS foam together with. So there's a little bit of a recyclable tip as well. And then we are just going to paint the stone, or the XPS foam if you wish, with our typical black paint and Mod Podge mix. So that seals it all in, makes sure that it doesn't get too many dings, stops it from getting too much damage on it, etc, etc. Basically everything that you want to do so that it is good for game day and can be reused multiple times. Then I use the dungeon base that came with the Army Painter starter kit, crafting starter kit, and I brushed the whole thing in the grey. Then grabbed an owlbear brown and painted the chair. I then grabbed the cavern brown that came with the crafting kit, and I painted individual tiles with that brown, so that it would get a little bit varied and it would not just all blend in with itself. The cavern base, that's the one. You see, it just helps the human eye sort of pick up on various different details. Well, I find it helps me anyway. And let me know in the comments what you think about that. And then a nice light tone right over the whole thing so that it gives it a bit more of a dirty look. Didn't want to go too dark though, because then it would take away all of the work that we've just done. The really cool thing about this particular build, of course, is that it is quite straightforward, and you, if you're getting into crafting or getting into this hobby from the get-go and you don't know where to start, this is actually a really good piece to start with. I raided my minis box and I found this torch bracket. So I know that's a bit cheating, but hey, if you've got them, why not use them, right? I was trying to think how I could effectively create a torch out of bits and pieces, and then when I found that I thought yay, but hey, I guess that's time for another video on how to make a torch in a bracket. Who knows? Let's see what happens. So I painted the flame, painted the timber parts, and then I used a lead belcher to just get that little bracket ring on it. So this is probably the fiddliest part, or one of the fiddliest parts, other than putting that chair together, of this whole build. You can see I had to use some clamps because there is no way that I could trust my hand to sit that still when painting that. And then for the flame, just steadily getting warmer colours, going lighter and lighter, so that there's a little bit of a difference and the flame starts looking like it's potentially flickering even though it's static. Fit it into the groove and then PVA it, and it looks $1,000,000. The next step is I grabbed some felt, because no throne is truly a throne without a little red cushion, I believe. So I cut a little square out, PVA'd it down, and gave the throne a nice red cushion. Alright, and the next step will be to make a banner, because in my mind there is no way that you can have a throne room without some form of representation on who's sitting on the throne. So I grabbed some orange felt, cut it into more of a shield type shape, and then just designed a very easy stylized banner. Traced out the borders and then sort of ruled out the shape that I was going to have on it, and then I grabbed a nice black wash that I used, almost like an inking of the felt, and then coloured it in like that. Of course, you could use vivids, you could use markers, felt tip pens, that kind of thing. You could use other paints, but I just felt like this was the best option for me, and it turned out really, really cool, quite natural looking when it got put up on the wall. There you go, a little bit of PVA glue, and we put it on the wall. And there we have it. A throne fit for a rather dirty and decrepit king. In my mind, something that can be used in multiple campaigns, reused over and over again. It's one of the most important things about crafting is the recyclable way of doing it, or otherwise you're going to run out of room very, very quickly when you're making too many things. But I hope you really enjoyed it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
That Bogan plays cards!